County Librarian, County of Los Angeles Public Library, and her guest, Yolanda Damaris, Chief Deputy, County of LA Public Library. The Honorable Dr. Bernd Fischer, Consul General of Germany, and his wife. She's here in spirit and really having a good time right now, actually. So, Casper Myro, the German exchange student down over here he's got a couple badges, which is pretty impressive there. Professor Peter Getkins, President of Rotary Berlin, and his wife, Christina Getkins, President, and of course our past President, Jay Richardson, Vice President of Wilmington Trust, and Johannes Masser, Relationship Manager, United Way of Greater Los Angeles, and my hero, Arthur Cassell. Arthur, there you are. Flexor-sized, American, wonderful guy. Los Angeles County Community College District Chancellor, Dr. Francisco Rodriguez is here. Welcome. And then, of course, our President-elect Jose Vera, Managing Director, Nicholas and Company, and all his guests. Please give everyone a round of applause. I want to introduce Rosita Rausch, who is going to introduce, thank goodness, because I had 5 years of German, but I would butcher some of these names. So she's going to introduce our special guest today.
Along with Berlin Rotary President Professor Peter Getkins and his wife Christiane. Okay, we have in the crowd as well, please if you could acknowledge, we have Mrs. Angelika Bellinger, we have Mrs. Julia Appelstadt, Mr. Rainer Krolo and his wife Barbara Krolo. We have Mr. Rolf Lechner and Mrs. Almut Lechner. Thank you. Please stand. Mr. Hans Speyer and Ulrike Speyer. Dr. Frank Freud. Mrs. Ulrike Fly. And Mr. Gerhard Hannessen and Mr. Dieter Keller.
Thank you, Rosita. Do we have any other international Rotarians visiting us today? Do we have any local Rotarians visiting us today? Okay. And today, please make sure, we don't have any, we do have this. An international, I'm sorry. Can you stand?
I'm Jennifer Hank from Vancouver, Abucas Rotary Club. I belong to Almonte Rotary Club here in Boston years ago. And I belong to the Victoria Rotary Club in Hong Kong.
As a reminder, there's 50-50 going on. We're pretty sure it's legal, I think. Half the proceeds go to the club, the other half to the lucky winner. Foundation Celebration raffle tickets are also being sold, 12 for $100. Today will be the last day, so put your hand up if you would like to get them, or at least before you leave. Make sure you put your lunch tickets out on the table. Cell phones are turned off. Alan will find you your first board if he catches you doing any of that. So please, no texting. One meeting today, Foundation Board of Directors will meet directly after the meeting in room 201. Back to you, President Allen.
Okay, who knows what today is in Rotary? Today is a very special day in Rotary. Does anyone know? It is World Polio Day, absolutely. And today, they actually have a call to action for all of us Rotarians. If you have time at 4:30, I'm going to come back to that, so hold on. There was a beautiful letter written by Gary Wong, our president. I want to share on with Rotary, and we can honor Rotary Day today. In October 1914, Jonas Salk was born. That is exactly 100 years today. And what happened is Jonas Salk created the vaccine. After he created the vaccine, we had Albert Sabine who developed an oral medicine that we, as Rotarians, decided that we would get behind. And I think in 1986, said we were going to do what we could to eradicate polio. Eradicate it totally, end polio. So that's what today is, End Polio Day. So if you can, there is a live stream. If you have your El Rodeo newsletter, click on the El Rodeo and you'll be able to click right onto the live stream at 4:30 today. They want to have the biggest group of people ever on a live stream, and we as Rotarians can fill that. So please try your best at 4:30 to click onto the live stream from Rotary End Polio Now, okay? And if you're on Twitter, just do that hashtag End Polio Now. They're trying to also hit the book Guinness Book of Records by having the greatest number of hashtags, okay? 4:30 today. Okay, so that is today, October 24th, but on November 15th, we have another opportunity to be involved, and that would be the United Way Home Walk. And I think we have 5 people who have signed up. I'm looking for 50, so we only have to multiply that number by 10. So I'm looking for 50 people to join me on November 15th. President-elect Jose Johannes Masserer will be there, and Eric Weiss too. Rosvita is standing out there. So 50 people, 8:15 on November the 15th for the home walk to end homelessness here in Los Angeles. So important, folks. This is something that, we do scholarships, we help veterans, but homelessness is also something that I think we should be involved with. So please do what you can to join on November the 15th. Okay, and the last thing we'll talk about, because there's so many things to get done today, is our USC-UCLA Day. President Ken is here, Past President Ken, UCLA USC Day. That's the way we like. What was that? Okay, yeah. Okay, so far we have locked in Jim Hill, CBS newscaster. We have John Shara, who signed up last night. He's a quarterback for UCLA. He'll be a captain on that day, the UCLA USC game. And who else do we have? We have John Robinson, who's already signed up. So we're looking for a few other great personalities. But we want you all to start talking it up. We're going to be at the Conga Room down at LA5. We can only fit 250. I want to jam-pack that room, okay? So that is a big event. So November the 21st, the day before, the big game. So I want you all to be here, okay? We're looking forward to seeing you there. All right. I am so honored to bring up today's program sponsor, Margaret Todd, County Librarian, County of Los Angeles Public Library. It's my pleasure to thank and recognize Margaret and the County of Los Angeles Public Library for being our program sponsor today. Margaret, please take a few minutes and tell us more about the County of Los Angeles Public Library.
Thank you, Mr. President. What's your image of today's public library? Dead quiet? A few people? An older, humorless woman wearing her hair in a bun saying, shh. Not at the County of Los Angeles Public Library. County libraries are busy, vibrant community spaces. We have standing room only often in many of our facilities. The libraries give you the freedom to connect, explore, create, whatever your needs or dreams. That's our statement of purpose. Our strategic plan is on your table. We are the largest public library in the United States with 86 facilities. We are not LAPL. That's a separate city library. We serve the richest and the poorest. Malibu, South Central, Compton. So which is our busiest library? Take a guess. I don't have Central or downtown. Any other cities you might want to mention? My busiest library is our virtual library. So you can get a library card and PIN number. You can download for free ebooks, audiobooks, magazines, research information you cannot Google. Hoopla, Freedom, online classes, language classes, manga, resume writing, Need research help? You can contact our research specialists. You can text, email, call, or chat, and they'll be glad to help you out. If your kids need homework help, we have live homework help every afternoon. The hours are usually about noon to 9. In any subject, they can go online and get 20 minutes of free virtual help with vetted, qualified tutors. Much better than you having to relearn algebra. So, you don't want that virtual thing, you want to go into the buildings? Our buildings focus on early literacy, teens, we have computers, we have Wi-Fi. You can bring your coffee and your snack, just put a lid on the drink. You can sit in the library and work. You can sit outside the library and work because our Wi-Fi is on all night long, 24/7, and we do have people who use our Wi-Fi at 2 in the morning. So you just don't care. Why should you demand great public libraries if you don't want to use them? Public libraries, great public libraries, increase property values. It's documented. Great public libraries create foot traffic for surrounding businesses. Great public libraries help people who need opportunity, like some of our poorest areas. Where else can somebody get a computer to help do a resume, maybe update some of their skills? We're going to start a pilot project in the next year where we're going to let people who have dropped out of high school, maybe their junior or senior year, go online on an accredited high school line and get a diploma. That's going to be pretty amazing for some people. So, I told you why you want a library. What do I want out of you? I want you to support public libraries. If you live in Altadena, support the parcel tax on November. If you saw that parcel tax for parks, vote for that. Libraries can collaborate with parks and get some benefits, so go for it. Finally, you'll find a card on the table. That is your concierge librarian, Pat Winnicky. She will be happy to get you a card, a PIN number, and help you in any way you want. Thanks.
Very well done, Margaret. Who knew? The library did all that. Amazing. We appreciate the County of Los Angeles Public Library for serving as our program sponsor today. And now, please welcome Carol Schaefer, owner Carol Schaefer Fine Jewelry, to the rostrum to lead us in our celebration of October birthdays. Very much.
Actually, we're going to do another stanza. Okay, all you October people that were born in October that used to be fetuses and now are adult people, we would like you to come up here and line up, please, as quick as you can. October birthday people. We have many. There's one. And if you're here visiting and your birthday's in October, you come on up too. We would like to ask you your name, where you were born, and if you were invited to a really, really elegant costume party, what would you go as? Elegant. Can we have a mic? Microphone? Do we have microphones in there?
David Blair, I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, October 22nd. We're going to a costume party.
We're going to a very elegant costume party. Where would you go as?
Queen of Angels Hospital in Hollywood. And I would go as one of those guys at Mardi Gras in New Orleans. That's what I would dress as.
Hi, Lori Jamie, born October 15th in Fort Rucker, Alabama. And I would, Halloween, I'd steal my 12-year-old daughter's idea. She's going as a minion.
Hi, Carol Donahue. I was born in Honolulu, Hawaii on October 25th. And I would be a lion because I was a lion once when I was a teacher. I went to school as a lion and I had my face painted and I had a costume on. And nobody recognized me and it was amazing to see everybody looking at me as I walked down the hall with their mouth open. It was just such a great feeling. So to be something totally different than what I am.
And Carol, incidentally, doesn't like when we ask these questions, but that was a good answer. Okay, let's sing happy birthday to these four lovely people. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rotarians. Happy birthday to you. And
Thank you, Carol. And Carol, happy birthday tomorrow. So that's good to say. It is now my privilege to invite those present who have been a member of LA5 for 5 years or 10 years to come forward and line up in front of the podium. 5 years closest to the podium and 10 years in the front row. You will each be presented a 5 or 10-year service recognition pin by Executive Director John Gibby and LA5 Membership Director Susan Griego and Calvin Chance. Calvin here. Okay, Susan and John, being an active member in Rotary for 5 or 10 years is a great accomplishment that you can each be proud of. We're all happy to share in your success and sustaining your dedication, loyalty, and being a true Rotarian. If you're a new Rotarian, today's honorees are just some of the Rotarians who can be your mentor. And if you're bringing prospective new members, we're loving to see that. We'll be happy to work through the process with you. The more senior Rotarians in the club will be glad to speak with prospective members. How many do we have? 5 and 10. Yeah, 5 and 10. Congratulations. Let's give our 5 and 10-year Rotarians a round of applause, please. Please wear your new pin and your Rotary pin with pride and commitment to service above self. Congratulations again. With Manisha Javeri, professor at Cal State University, Los Angeles, and our club's first Rotary Peace Fellow, please join me in this roster. Manisha, please take a minute to tell us about our special guest.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, President Allen, it's my privilege and pleasure to introduce our members and guests of LA5, our very first Rotary Global Scholar, following year of study and service abroad. Launched in 2013, the Rotary Global Grant Scholarship has replaced the old Ambassadorial Scholarship. Rotary Global Scholars in our district, 50 to 80, receive $30,000 to be used toward the cost of postgraduate study in a country not their own. During the period of study abroad, the scholars engages with Rotarians in the local country and does a Rotary-related service project. Katie Tolan graduated from Pepperdine University in 2008 with a Bachelor of Arts in Liberal Studies. During her college years, she also studied in Buenos Aires, Argentina. After graduation, she spent 4 years teaching 4th grade in Kigali, Rwanda. She also founded a training program for teachers there called as Peace and Love Proclaimer organization. Returning to LA, she taught grade 5 reading, writing, and science for 2 years. She has just now returned from the UK, where, as a Rotary Global Grant Scholar, she has earned her master's degree in International Education and Development from the University of Sussex, Brighton, UK. Fellow Rotarians and guests, please welcome our first Rotary Global Scholar, Katie Toll.
So excited to be here and a little nervous because this is by far the biggest Rotary meeting I've ever been to. And I've been talking actually about you guys for a year now as my host club, as I've gone throughout Rotary clubs in Southeast England. And they're always so impressed when I say that the club goes over 400 members and they ask, well then how big are meetings? And I've always been like, I don't actually know. So this is really exciting to be here. Like Manisha mentioned, I just finished my master's in international education and development. I worked for 3 years in East Africa teaching and starting a teacher training initiative through a local nonprofit there, working with Rwandan teachers. And while I was there, it was fantastic. I loved it. I felt like I was doing something that I always wanted to do, but I also didn't know what I was doing. So, as I returned back to LA to do what I had been trained to do, which was teach, I realized that my heart still lied within international development. But in order for me to return to that field, I needed some more training, which led to the Master's in International Education Development, and for me to connect with Rotary. So this past year, as I've gone through the program, I've learned a lot and connected with so many fantastic Rotarians, and have been so blessed by the Rotary Club. Somebody at one of the meetings once told me that Rotary is the world's best kept secret, and I think I wholeheartedly agree, because a lot of people that I've come across don't know exactly what Rotary stands for, what they do, and how much impact they actually have in the world, especially within the social circles, and what that can mean to humanitarian causes, development causes across the world. So it's been really exciting to get to see that firsthand. So a big thank you from me. I bring to you 3 flags from some clubs that I have been to. One from the Rotary Club of Berlin, England, which was my host club while I was in school. From the Brighton Hove Soiree Rotary Club, which was just down the road. And then a couple miles off the shore, the Rotary Club of Shoreham and Southwick also took their flag. And I also got to, this summer, attend some Rotary clubs in Kigali, Rwanda, as I went back there for my research for my final dissertation. And they didn't have a flag for me, but they sent their greetings. They were a phenomenal class. I told some stories about them in a few of my updates that if you were able to read those, they're really good. So thank you again for having me. Thank you so much for what you have offered me this past year. And I would love to talk to everyone as I'm here, so feel free to ask me questions or anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie and Manisha. Our first LA5 Rotary Global Scholar. So nice. Okay, it is now my distinct privilege to officially welcome our traveling delegation from Rotary Club Berlin. We have a very special program segment in your honor. Please welcome the following Rotarians to the roster. Past President Jay Richardson, who will make the opening comments. He'll be followed by Rosmita Roach, Director of External Relations, UCLA Center for World Health, who will introduce our distinguished guests. She'll be followed by the Honorable Dr. Ern Fisher, Consul General of Germany, and honorary member of the Rotary Club of Los Angeles. Very good.
Now, my wife may not know this, but I actually did take 2 weeks of German in high school, so I'm going to try to do this speech in German. I'm just kidding. creating an international incident, but honestly claim if I do. But anyway, welcome to our guests from Germany. I have the honor of introducing Dr. Bernd Fischer in just a moment, but I was asked to say a few comments. For those of you that don't know, I had the honor of presiding as president of this club in 2012 when we celebrated the milestone of 50 years of sister club affiliation with the Rotary Club of Nagoya, Japan. I have here one page from the scrapbook which says Sister Clubs in Rotary, Los Angeles and Nagoya, a sister is born. Well, as you're about to hear, last night at the residence of the Consul General, a new sister has been born. And we're excited to announce that we have entered into sister club affiliation with the Rotary Club of Berlin. Without any further ado, let me go ahead and introduce the General Consul of Germany to Los Angeles, Dr. Bernd Fischer, to make some further announcements.
Dear fellow Rotarians, this is a moment when the diplomat is always a little bit in an awkward situation. One half of me is official, the other half is Rotarian. The other half is subdivided between being a former member, having been for 20 years now of the Rotary Club of Berlin, and for a year now being an honorary member of RC LA5. So how do I overcome this all? Basically, I say nothing. No, I want to say one thing because it kind of connects it all. Rotary was founded by Paul Harris with great ideas, and that is creating international friendship. First of all, creating friendship in the community, and then going over the borders. And the Berliners in 1929 took this up, and since then we are together with the Rotary clubs around the world celebrating this friendship of clubs in democracies and of clubs in free market societies. That's important. And as a representative of the German government, I can only tell you, you Rotarians, you are ambassadors, our Berliners, for the Germans in the United States, and so many of you for the United States and Germany, and especially with this new official uniform. Where is he? There he is. Has been introduced. I'm happy to be here with you. This is the highlight of my Rotary. Thank you.
Dr. Peter Dagans, the president of the Rotary Club of Berlin, but he has spent time teaching at Caltech, so it's nice to have him here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, greetings from the Rotary Club of Berlin, or as we are frequently called, the Capital Club. Of course, we are capital only a couple of years now, since the wall came down and the two cities, two halves of the cities, the two parts of the country were reunited, which happened 25 years ago. And therefore, our visit to Los Angeles is also in recognition of the fact, obviously, that we are sister cities, Los Angeles and Berlin. And I think it is a natural idea to make the two Rotary clubs of the two cities approach each other to develop a special degree of freedom and a special degree of friendship, I should say, and devote themselves to bridge the long distance across the Atlantic between Europe and the United States. We recognize the fact that the reunion of the city is very much due to American support of the years. We would not have survived the strenuous years of separation without a continuous support from our transatlantic friends. And I stand here also as a representative of the Free University of Berlin, of which I used to be the president at one time, the name of which alludes to the fact that it was established in 1949 when the citizens of West Berlin could not attend the traditional University of Berlin, which was in the eastern part of the city, and therefore a new university was established very much with American support, and that was called Free University. When the reunification of the country occurred and of the city occurred, we have been debating whether we should continue to call ourselves Free University, because all the universities in the world are free, yet in remembering the fact that freedom is not self-understood and must be defended, and the set of values that go along with freedom must be defended and further developed, we decided that we would be continuously called the Free University of Berlin. Now, Rotary, of course, is an institution which unites us all. It's global. It's a global club that we are members of. And we are therefore agreeing to a set of values that we all agreed to when we became members of this club. Recognizing the fact also that Rotary contributes to the continuous development of society, economically, socially, culturally, both in the region of Los Angeles as well as in the region of Berlin. And therefore, I find it a natural idea, an idea that comes quite natural, that the two clubs of these two cities develop a very special relationship. And as a symbol of that, I have brought to you our flag, which, by the way, has the bear, shows the bear of Berlin. And I do remember that the Californian bear, I think, is this way. Our bear is upright. Well, that may mean something. But anyway, this is what I have to bring to you. And I'd also like to add a very little small present. Because in German we have this sentence which says it's the small presents that became French, that support French. And this is a little personal present to your current president, Alan. A bell. It is not the freedom bell, should you have mistaken it, but it's a tourist bell. And Alan, in case your bell doesn't work one day, and you have to call the meeting to order, why don't you use this one?
It is wonderful to have you all here with us. If you did not know, Los Angeles is a sister city of Berlin, so it's only natural and fitting and proper that our Rotary Club should be sisters. So we're very happy to have you all here with us, and I hereby decree that on one Friday, and before the end of my term, we should all take a ride out to Berlin and join them. Bernd is retiring next year, is that correct? He is retiring, and he's going to get a very big house. So I think we're all going to go and stay at his house and enjoy our time together in Berlin. We also have his wife, Christiana, from the Rotary Club of Potsdam, who has welcomed us as well and said we'll have a fabulous tour. As I understand it, most of you all who are here on this little journey have been working very hard. The itinerary that was set up by Bernd is very strenuous, so you're having a great time. So glad to have you all here. We're so thrilled to be with you all and look to see you all in Berlin. Okay, Johannes.
Guten Tag, good afternoon everybody. So last night, so they were here for a full week. They went to an SC game. They went nonstop every day, but the highlight of the trip, I think, is today, if everyone's looking forward to it. And something very exciting and something very special happened yesterday at a very small reception. And what happened was a document was signed by the three gentlemen that I would actually ask to come up here. Alan's already here. Peter and Bert, if you want to come up here as well. So this document, and I want to read it, was signed last night by the three people standing behind me, which is Professor Peter Ketkins, who's the president of the Rotary Club Berlin, Alan Bernstein, who's the president of LA5 Rotary Club here in Los Angeles, and Bert Fisher, who's a member of the Rotary Club Berlin and an honorary member of the LA5 Rotary Club, and also the current consul general here. And the document that was signed last night, it says on top, Certificate of International Rotary Friendship. Endeavoring to create positive, lasting change in our communities and around the world, the Rotary Club of Los Angeles and the Rotary Club Berlin welcome the opportunity to extend and further develop mutual transatlantic friendship and jointly look forward to exploring every opportunity to broaden and deepen ties between our clubs in the future. And that does include, I think, a trip coming up, but we'll talk separately. There is another Oktoberfest next year, so. In the spirit of Rotary, international hospitality and goodwill, and in recognition of the sister cities' relationship between Los Angeles and Berlin, this certificate is signed by the presidents of the visiting delegation of the Rotary Club Berlin and of the Rotary Club of Los Angeles on behalf of all their members. And this was presented today here in Los Angeles at the California Club, and I think we're going to take a picture in a moment. But some of you might have noticed, normally as a German guy, I have a pretty straight, strong, deep voice. Right now, this is a very emotional moment for me because I remember I was about 8 years old on a train in Thailand when, at that time, my parents explained to me that my dad was a Rotary and what that meant, because we were in Thailand, we were visiting some of these villages, and we talked about polio. And I remember it very vividly because it was this huge thing that was much bigger than my little community at home. At 16, I was like Casper right here. Not quite as handsome, but I did have the same jacket with all the pins. I spent 1 year in the US as a Rotary exchange student. I went back to Germany after that, founded a Rotary Club in Germany, which is still around, 15 years now. And then moved back here, and LA5, I guess over 5 years ago, started with Paul St. John. I walked in the first day, about 7 minutes later I was a member. And it was, they took my American Express and it was done. So anyways, sometimes I know we have people up here talking about their Rotary moment. For me, this is my Rotary moment. It started when I was a little kid and we're here now, and it's bigger than me. It's wonderful. So thank you. Thanks, all.
Our clubs are very similar. The Rotary Club of Berlin and the Rotary Club of Los Angeles. Just imagine, there are a lot of clubs that have very dissimilar points of view. That's the power of Rotary. If we could have this type of agreement with clubs that had challenges, what world this would be. So that's what we really want to do in Rotary, is to build these bridges. So it's a very important day, it's an example, and I'm very proud to be part of it today. Thank you very much, and yes, Johannes, you get 2 points for your Rotary moment. It is now my pleasure to welcome President-elect Jose Rivera to introduce Marcy Reeves, IBD Foundation founder and president, and tell us about our accomplished speaker.
Thank you, President Allen. And credit where credit is due, we'd like to thank Todd Johnson for inviting our speaker. Now, a few things about Marcy. She is a native of Toronto, Canada. she is very smart, graduating with honors from the the University of Toronto, and then getting a master's degree and graduating with summa cum laude from the California State Long Beach School. She then started working for 3 years at Cedars-Sinai, where she created a psychosocial program in its Pediatric Inflammatory Bowel Disease Center. Then she left that organization and founded the IBD Support Foundation, a nonprofit healthcare foundation whose mission is to improve the quality of life for individuals with IBD. Ms. Rice is a pioneer in her field and has developed in the development and promotion of psychosocial care for IBD patients and in educating medical professionals regarding its vital aspect of care. She not only does research in this field, but she is working with the U.S. government on healthcare legislation and is doing all she can to make sure that the psychosocial care of IBD patients moves on in a big way. So please help me in welcoming her here today. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. I feel like I'm in good company. I am the daughter of a past Rotary president. So I grew up with my dad forever wearing the little Rotary pin, and he was very involved in creating a program of sleeping children around the world with packets for impoverished children, and I think they've given out something like 40,000 sleep packets to date. So I'm the founder and president of the IBD Support Foundation, which is now an international nonprofit healthcare foundation that provides psychosocial support and education and research in the area of inflammatory bowel disease, which is Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. So people get nervous sometimes if you are going to give a talk at lunchtime about inflammatory bowel disease, so I'll go carefully. But who here has heard of inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's or colitis? Okay, most of you have. So I'm going to tell you my background. So nearly 18 years ago, I was living in California, relatively newly married, and was on my way to medical school. My husband and I went away for a long weekend. It was Valentine's Day weekend. We got a beautiful place in Dana Point. And on the way down Saturday night, I had a terrible headache, which you don't want on your romantic weekend on Valentine's Day weekend. So I took some over-the-counter Excedrin and it went away and all was well in the world. Sunday afternoon, we're walking along the beach and I got a horrendous pain in my stomach. And I doubled over and I was in a cold sweat and I could barely breathe. And my husband had to practically carry me back to our hotel room where I proceeded to hemorrhage. We let that go on, and being the young, smart, well-educated people that we were, we did nothing. We just let me hemorrhage. And hours into this, I'm barely conscious. And it was 3 hours ahead, of course, in Canada. So I called my older brother, who's a gastroenterologist, and he had recently graduated. And I called him and I said, Mark, I've been bleeding. And with his brilliance and his vast medical school education, he said, what are you calling me for? Get to a hospital. So my husband drove me up to Cedars-Sinai, where I was admitted. They made me drink liters of very awful colonoscopy prep. They did a scope, and they dropped a bomb. And they said, Marcy, you have Crohn's disease. And my world was shattered. Here I was, went into the hospital, having never really taken any medication before, except once in a while for a headache. And I left Cedars-Sinai the next day with a Heplock, an open IV, a box of steroids that I was supposed to self-inject, and an incurable disease diagnosis. And I had no idea what it meant for my life, my future, and having a family or a career. I was all questions and no answers. And I remember we lived in Hancock Park, and I was driving along Beverly Boulevard with my husband, driving home and saying, what just happened to our lives? And so I decided at that point to redirect, and I didn't think I could handle medical school and disease. So I did a master's in medical social work so I could figure out how to incorporate illness into my life sepsis twice, and I had countless life-threatening infections. During that same time, I built my international organization, and it's actually, my work has become quite well known, and I do work in healthcare reform, work with the government. And I stayed married, had 3 children, raised a family, and somehow was in and out of the hospital over 160 times. 14 years after diagnosis, UC San Diego recruited the #1 inflammatory bowel disease doctor in the world from the Mayo Clinic down to San Diego. So he came down to San Diego, and he knew about me because of my foundation, and I gave him about an hour to settle in, and then I showed up in his office and told him that he wasn't doing enough for patients. And this is the #1 guy in the world. And he said, well, what do you mean? And I said, you're not providing support. Patients need support. They need to understand the dynamics of what just happened to their lives when you give them a diagnosis. They need to know how to stay as functional spouses and parents and employees. So we started working together, and a few months in, I was once again on death's door, and I said, you know what, I think I need to come see you as a patient. I went to see him as a patient. He put me through a week of unbelievable, grueling tests and procedures, and at the end of that week, he sat me down, and the next bomb dropped. He said, Marcy, there's a really big picture we need to talk about here. There's just no evidence to suggest you've ever had Crohn's disease. It was the beginning of a 1-year journey of determining that I actually was really healthy. My original hemorrhage was an adverse reaction to the Excedrin I took for my headache, and I was essentially being poisoned to death for 14 years by an institution that was caring for me. So I'm a firm believer that everything is meant to be, and while there's enormous loss looking backwards, there's enormous hope looking forwards. And the insight that I have gained from being both a patient and a clinician and provider for patients is a very, very unique perspective. And it's that perspective that I bring with me when I teach patients and I teach people how to adapt to illness. So why is it difficult to adapt to illness to begin with? Why do we even have to have this conversation? Well, if you think about it, as we go through life challenges and we encounter a struggle, we draw upon the knowledge that we've acquired from growing up, from our families, from our schooling, and we apply that knowledge to the challenge, right? So let's think about a life challenge. Relationships. Where do we learn about relationships? From infancy on, we learn from our primary caregivers, and we learn on the playground. We learn in school, we have best friends and boyfriends and girlfriends, and we learn about power relationships with teachers. And then in college, we take psychology or sociology. So by the time it comes down to choosing a life partner, we have enormous amounts of knowledge from our schooling, and we've seen a lot in our families. What's another life challenge? Finances, right? That's a big one for everybody. So where do we learn about finances? Well, we go through school, we take math, we take economics, we have piggy banks, and we get summer jobs, then we take advanced math classes in school and college. So by the time we want to budget for a mortgage or a car or any major purchase, or we want to save up for something, we have a lot of knowledge and experience. We've watched our parents, we've watched our families. So what about illness? Okay, I'm assuming that everybody here went to high school. Can I see a show of hands? How many people here went to college? How many people went to college outside of California? How many people went to college outside of the United States? Okay, so we've got a lot of diversity in the room. And how many of you, through all of your educational experiences, in high school, in college, in the US and abroad, have ever taken Disease Acquisition 101? Nobody? Okay, well, if we didn't learn about it in school, we must have learned about it from our families. So who here growing up heard from your parents, when you grow up, dear, and you get a disease, this is how you should handle it? Right? That's what we hear growing up. So lo and behold, when you get illness, you don't have the skills, you don't have the knowledge. There's no knowledge base from our education and from our families to draw upon. And so we have no way to figure out how to adapt. So we can write books on how to adapt, but one thing I want to share with you is a bit of a conceptual framework on how to, you have this all on your seats, is a psychosocial patient radial. And this radial shows you how to sort of conceptually think about a human life. And in that human life, we start with the patient in the middle. So coming to diagnosis, you've all had a personality. Some of us are more high-strung, some are less high-strung, some of us are happier, some of us are less happy, right? You have a personality that you're bringing with you, and you have life experiences that you carry with you to that diagnosis. And then you're connected to a family. And I'm going to go through this quickly because they told me I had 15 minutes less to give you guys than I thought. So that's okay. But in our family, we have practical support, emotional support, opposition to treatment, or not. And this is even sort of a simplified picture because in our families, we have people that are more or less important to us, right? People that we're closer to or whose opinions we respect a lot. So depending on how they manage, that's going to substantially impact how we manage. So you can see the happy family and the dysfunctional family is going to impact the patient. Similarly, friends, sort of like family, they can be emotionally supportive or not, they can be practically supportive or not, and there's a big loneliness factor because most of us, nobody here really wanted to hear about inflammatory bowel disease over lunch. That's across the board for patients. So depending on what the illness is, if it's taboo to talk about, it leaves patients very isolated and very lonely. So we can have different support groups and social support groups. We can be parts of gangs or fraternities or Rotary clubs where we're going to have healthy support, or we could have been a part of a social circle that's not going to provide healthy support. Similarly, in our work setting, in our work environment, those of us who are named partners on a law firm are going to have an easy time taking time off to go to the doctor, have an infusion, have a colonoscopy, get the treatment we need. Those in the world who are flipping burgers and are hourly wage workers don't have that ability. So the work setting and the accommodations that we are able to have vary drastically, and all of that, again, is going to impact how we adapt to illness. School. We have over 250,000 children in this country with inflammatory bowel disease, and they go through a lot, with the school being accommodating or not accommodating. I actually had to go out and advocate for a second grader who was being flunked because he was hospitalized for surgery for a month. He was able to compete. He was able to write all of his tests and do well, but he couldn't catch up with the filler work, the daily stencils that they were handing out. We had a teacher who was failing him. This was a private school. His parents were paying for this. So again, how the school adapts, how the work environment adapts is going to impact how we adapt. Financial situation, insurance situation. Obviously, Mr. Moneybags on top is going to do a lot better. Alan, I think he looks like you. But again, the financial picture is going to strongly impact whether or not patients can afford to be sick. Religion and cultural perspectives. I work on staff at UC San Diego now, and I think that all three of these patients have been in our office. Again, they're going to come from very, very different perspectives, and how their cultures and religions perceive illness is going to impact how they adapt to illness. The health and healthcare teams, level of disease severity, doctor-patient relationship, all of these things are going to impact the individual's ability to adapt to illness. So with all the diversity, right, everyone in this room is diverse, comes from a diverse background, different states, different countries, and all of us, with different family makeup, we're all going to have a different ability to adapt to illness. So what I want to leave you with is I want to just go through a few different coping strategies. So first, it's really important to recognize that men and women handle crisis very differently. crisis, and here we're talking about medical crisis, but it really is sort of across the board. Men facing crisis need to go in their heads. They need to retreat, they need to go cerebral, and they need to think through the problem. They need space, I see lots of nods. They need space, they need time to sort through it, to figure out how they're gonna attack it, approach it, fix it, and when they figure that out, they're ready to come out. Women, on the other hand, need to talk. Women process problems through speech. It's a reality, ladies. We need to talk. So when we're in crisis, we need to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And when we're done beating it to death, we need to talk one more time, and then we're okay. Equal but different. This is how we are wired. And again, once in a while it's flipped, but that's the general pattern. So what happens in the dynamics? The woman, let's take a husband and wife, the woman needs to talk, and she's bringing him in, and the man's saying, stay away, I need to deal. So what happens? You've got the man thinking, I need space, she's so needy, she's driving me crazy, and you've got the woman thinking, this is my time of greatest need, he's not there for me. Conflict. This is a dynamic that happens virtually across the board. So what can we do about it? First thing is to recognize it, appreciate it, and respect it. It doesn't mean one is better than the other, it's a simple reality. A man needs to have a space to sort it out, a woman needs to find someone else to talk to. It doesn't make the relationship between the husband and wife, this is clearly hitting some nerves. This doesn't make the relationship any less than, it's a simple reality of how we're wired. Another very important coping strategy is learning to live with instability. By definition, disease has a mind of its own. Illness has a mind of its own. You know, we go through life and we really have this idea that we have control. Anyone here notice that we really don't have any control? We really don't. But we have to deceive ourselves to function, right? So when we go through school, if we work really hard, we have this notion that we're going to do well. And if we work really hard at our jobs, we're going to earn a living and we'll be successful, right? We have that notion. We do our best to continue to deceive ourselves and believe that we have control. And we function best that way. But with disease, you can do everything right. You can eat well, you can exercise, you can take your medicine, you can listen to your doctor, you can do absolutely everything right, and your disease can still flare. Your illness can still flare. So the reality is you have to sort of face that hard, cold fact that you don't have control. So what I try to teach people who are facing illness is that you have to start to think about, okay, I can live life on a roller coaster. Hopefully it will be one of the kiddie roller coasters and not like the big roller coaster, but you have to learn to live life on a roller coaster without a seatbelt. And you can keep the same goals and you can keep the same dreams, but you kind of have to give up the timeline. So if you can give up the timeline and say, okay, I want to get this done. I want to be this. I want to accomplish this in school. I want to accomplish this project. But appreciate that because there is illness on the table, the timeline might get derailed. There's going to be something unanticipated that you can accomplish, right? It's just a learning skill. And we have this, you know, there's definitely a rat race in North America. I don't know who started it. I'd like to have a conversation with whoever started it because it's really messed things up for all patients with serious illness. You know, we all believe that, or most of us who are on this rat race believe that the fastest time, if we can get from point A to point B in the fastest period of time, we've done better. So what I try to teach people is that when you look back at the end of your life at what you've accomplished, you're probably not going to check that timeline. You're probably not going to check and say, well, I made it through medical school by 22 or 24. But if you made it through medical school by the time you're 28 because you had a disease, you still became a doctor. So we have to sort of change the thinking a little bit into not when I'm going to accomplish my goal, but I'm going to accomplish my goal. And then a third piece that's really important is disclosure. So, part of why some people were a little concerned about, a discussion about inflammatory bowel disease, because it's a hard thing to talk about, right? We certainly don't want to talk about it around food, right? So, disclosure for patients, and I'm in inflammatory bowel disease, so that's a really, really tough illness to disclose, but a lot of illnesses are tough to disclose. And it's a process to figure out who you can disclose to, how much you can disclose, and how you disclose. Let's think about in a dating situation for a younger patient, do they disclose on a first date? This is particularly challenging for inflammatory bowel disease. You're on a date, it's all going great, and then you want to mention that you have Crohn's disease, which is fine. It's that next question that's the problem. What is it? That's when you get stuck. So then do you wait too long and there's the potential for feeling that you withheld or you betrayed a trust because you didn't disclose? Similarly, in a job setting, do you want to disclose at the interview? You see, I have this disease and it's not really a big deal, but I have to go and get an infusion every 4 weeks, and sometimes I don't feel so well, need the bathroom, need some breaks. Do you want to share that in the interview? Probably not. But then 1 month into your job and you're flaring and you need to take time off, and your employer says, why didn't you tell me? Right? So it's a process, it's a learning process, and there's kind of no hard, fast rule. It's gauging over time in your own particular world with the circumstances around you. Can you trust this person, and how are you going to share it? For patients who are going to say, this is the most awful thing, and I'm in the bathroom always, and I'm in the hospital, and in and out of the hospital, the listener is going to have one idea of what that is. Or, I have a stomach condition, I need to take medicine. The listener is going to hear something very different. So I educate patients on how to disclose, who can you disclose to, when do you disclose, and how do you disclose. And I think sort of a universal, really, really, really important coping strategy for everybody in life, and especially in illness, is humor. And when we can deal with emotionally painful things with laughter and with joking, it really makes an enormous difference, and it's very, very, very therapeutic. So in my office, and I won't share it here, but in my office, there's a lot of potty humor, because that's the disease. In my office, I have a whole wall of toilets from around the world. I don't have any from Germany. But that's the reality. So for so many people who are dealing with this very devastating, serious disease where they're in and out of the hospital and in and out of surgeries, they have to find a way to be able to laugh. So I'll leave you with a funny story. There's a friend and patient that I was taking care of, Brad. Brad was an ulcerative colitis patient. So for those ulcerative colitis patients, urgency is an enormous problem. So he was on a flight from New York back to Los Angeles, and he was during a flare, and he was very, very, very grateful that the flight went smoothly. And it was towards the end of the flight, and he got that, oh no, feeling. Oh no. So he raced from his seat to the lavatory, and he's in the lavatory for quite some time, and he hears over the PA system, ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching our descent into Los Angeles International Airport. Please return to your seats, stow your tray tables, return your seats to their upright position. We will be landing shortly. Well, dear Brad's in the lavatory, and he's stuck in the lavatory, and sooner or later there is a stewardess who recognizes that there's a gentleman in the lavatory, and he needs to be seated. Sir, I'm sorry. We're landing shortly, and you need to be seated. The entire cabin is now listening to this. And out comes Brad's voice. I am seated. So the stewardess walks away, and she's kind of flustered. She's not sure what to do with that answer. So she walks away, and lo and behold, they're going in for a steeper landing, and she goes back, and she thinks now she knows how she's going to handle it. Sir, you need to be seated with your seatbelt fastened. The entire cabin is watching this lavatory door, and out comes a voice. There's no seatbelt in! Well, that airplane landed, and my dear friend Brad landed in the airplane lavatory. As you can imagine, when it was time to walk out of that lavatory, the entire cabin was fixated on that door. So Brad very courageously stepped out of that lavatory, looked around, and all of the faces that were looking at him shrugged his shoulders and said, "When you gotta go, you gotta go." And the reason I love that story is Brad to me is one of these inspirational guys who handles emotional pain with humor. And I think this story highlights the ability to take something that was obviously so emotionally painful, so incredibly humiliating, and turn it around, make himself okay with it, make all the people around him laugh. So, in conclusion, I want you to appreciate that it really is hard to adapt to illness. We've had no coping skills, we've had no training, we have no knowledge, we have no experience, none, sort of, as well with all the people around us, no one has this. So give yourself some time and appreciate the dynamics. Use the psychosocial radial that I showed you as a conceptual framework, and I gave you all one to take home, as a conceptual framework to just really think about how this is playing out in your life and where the struggles are. And it helps when you can kind of categorize and figure out where the issues are, where the challenges are for you, so you can attack them better. And remember the coping strategies. This is how men and women respond to crisis. Learn to live with a little instability. You can postpone your timelines. And most important, never ever lose your sense of humor.
Thank you, Marcy. I don't know how you did it, but you made IBD interesting for our group. It's very nice. And I think your dad would be very proud that you did such a great job here at Rotary. It was an honor to have you with us today as our guest speaker. In honor of your presentation, a $1,000 donation has been made in your name to the LA5 Scholarship Fund. The donation will enable a deserving student to achieve their dream of a college education. On behalf of our members and the students that will benefit from your generosity, we thank you. Please accept this photo and success story about one of our past scholarship recipients as a token of our appreciation. This is Marco Casillas. Marco went to Mendez High School, and he is going to East Los Angeles College right now, here in the fall. Let me tell you a little bit about Marco. Marco was barely 13 when his mother left scholarship application that he just managed to graduate from middle school that year because he was so upset about his mother's leaving. That year, neither parent showed up at his graduation from 8th grade. Marco's only role model was his older brother, who encouraged him to stay in school and devote his time to doing well in classes and get involved in school activities. In high school, Marco joined the weightlifting club because he wanted to toughen up and feel better about himself. Through that sport, he pushed himself to work through the anger he felt at home because of his family situation. He also became vice president of the school's fashion club, where he helped organize meetings and make sure members attended. The following year, Marco joined Students Run Los Angeles, which was a big-time commitment, but one that led him to compete in the LA Marathon, 26.2 miles of running. He believes the skills he learned with these activities not only contributed to several successes, it stimulated his aspirations to pursue something he likes as a way to make a living for himself. He loves working with cars, and at East Los Angeles College, he plans to learn as much as he can about repairing them and perhaps own his own repair shop one day. With his older brother's encouragement, Marco is the first generation in his family to achieve college. Thanks again, Marcy. And now, please welcome back our Vice President and Program Chair, Todd Johnson, who will tell us about some of the exciting upcoming programs he has lined up. Topical Todd.
Thank you, President Allen. And Marcy, thank you. I have a question. When I got married, my wife gave me one book to read, and it was called Women Are from Venus and Men Are Wrong.
One page and that's it. So I think I've been had to listen to this. So, but nevertheless, thank you so much for coming today. I think some people have some questions for you maybe afterwards. If you can stick around, that'd be great. In 4 weeks, if it's hard to believe, 4 weeks, it'll be the USC UCLA or UCLA USC, depending on which president you ask. But nevertheless, we will have a big event that day down at LA5, and John Skira has just signed on Shar, an SC guy knows that. So, who played with the Philadelphia Eagles in this Super Bowl, and I won't tell him I'm a Cowboy fan, but nevertheless, he has got some incredible background. Of course, John Robinson with USC, and we've got a bunch of other things coming. In 3 weeks, Veterans Day will be here, and this young man, well, he's young, I guess, compared to some of us, but is impressive. Jake Wood is a Marine Corps sniper specialist from Iraq, Afghanistan. He got the V for Valor medal. He's a first team, all academic, all Big Ten. He was a full scholarship to Wisconsin. He founded a nonprofit team, Rubicon, which has put veterans back to work. He's a GQ Gentleman of the Year, and I got his picture. He's a handsome guy, I have to admit. So, women, you'll be in awe when you see him. He's a CNN hero. He's a TED speaker. President Ken said he's heard of him, and I think it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful meeting. So, that's in 3 weeks. In 2 weeks, we have the SAC agent, Joseph Beatty. And I did get a picture of him, and he's a handsome guy too, but I'm still keeping it under wraps. And he's going to be here speaking, of course, what he calls is "This is my life." He is the senior executive special agent in charge of Secret Service in this area. He is certainly probably going to take some questions in regards to White House security. I know there's been a few things happening over there. Or what security, but you can say that, not me. But he will be here in 2 weeks, and he's definitely excited. And then in a week, we have Dr. Margaret Peterson from the president of the California Hospital, who they also will be joining as a corporate member, and will be telling us about the hospital care they're doing for this community. Back to you, President Mauer.
Thank you, Todd. Doing a great job. And now, in addition to today's 50-50 drawing, we have a special guest. Just popping in for a second, we have City Councilman Tom Levant, a great friend of the club. Tom,
number one, all in history, but also our friends from Berlin, our sister city. It's very special to have them here. And I spoke to them at City Hall, and I said to some of my American friends, we must go to Berlin on the 4th of July, and they celebrate our national holiday at Temple Hall Fairfield, where in 48, 49, for 12, 14 months, the airlift came. And I can tell you, when I was 24, the first thing I did, you been to Berlin?
No, but
What is the first thing you do when you're in a town? The first thing you do, probably.
Beer.
Okay, I went and got a beer. Very good. I went and got a beer, and I'm in a pub, I'm getting close to you. The guy from Berlin grabbed me like this, forgive me for beginning, and hugged me to thank me as an American, which is an impression I created to this day. Rotary have a world global view. It's a dynamic city. They celebrate the 25th anniversary of the wall, and as you may recall, as Berlin was divided after the war, they couldn't divide. They divided Western Germany and Eastern Germany. If it wasn't for Berlin being divided, it may have never been united, because they could have separated and not seen each other as countries. And because of the West in Berlin, when technology like Ted Turner and the cable, it didn't stop at the wall, it showed the world to the East Germans. We said, I want to be West. And Mr. Bush won. Well, I think it was better than Mr. Bush too, but Mr. Bush won. In a speech in Berlin said he credited Gorbachev for making it happen, which was really true. He saw the dynamic. So there's so much history here that we have been. And I just wanted to stop by. We had our folks over at City Hall. They had a big party at Hancock Park last night. They're going to San Francisco tomorrow. Give the microphone back. A beat is in.
Thank you, Tom. And geez, what? I'm available on July the 4th. That's amazing. Okay. And now, in addition to today's 50-50 drawing, we'll also select a business card for one of our lucky guests who will receive a bottle of wine. Many thanks to Ben Turner, who is here today, President and CEO of Forensic Investigations and Technical Services Incorporated, who sells 50 tickets and carefully guards 50-50 money each week. Let's have a business card. Ben, where are you? Is Sean Smith in the house? Sean Smith of Western Bridge. Sean Smith. Sean?
Here he is.
Sean, please come get the bottle of wine. Very nice of you to be here. I hope to see you back here again very soon, Sean. So, very good. All right, and now let's draw a winning number. Hope everybody has your winning tickets out. Ben, can you tell us how many dollars we have this week?
We have $100 for the winner.
$100 even. Very good.
Lance, sit down.
Past President Jay, would you pull the table?
Congratulations.
Lance, sit down. Where's Lance? Yes, okay. Yes. Okay, that number is 3, 6, 2, 2, 3, 2.
Good number.
3, 6, 2, 2, 3, 2.
Lance left.
Yeah, Lance left. Artie, you don't have it? I'm waiting for it. 2, 3, 2. He's gone? Oh, that's Wardo. That's Wardo. USC tuition is only $64,000 now, so drop in the bucket. Drop in the bucket. Our deepest condolences go out to LA5 Community Service Director Jim Hoyt, whose mother Dorothy passed away suddenly on Monday at age 89. You know, Jim had been down in northern Louisiana really for the last year taking care of his folks. So I reached out to him the other night, and he's doing okay. Please keep Jim and his family in your thoughts and prayers. Please also continue to reach out and pray for Rotarian Denny Dines. Denny is part of the fabric of this club, so as he continues to go through his chemotherapy treatments. Okay, presidential fines. Is Olympia in the house? Olympia. Is she here? Oh, Olympia is here. So nice to see you, Olympia. She is the TED speaker, author of Mathophobia. I have learned that you recently have appeared on PBS Between the Lines TV show with Barry Kubrick. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.